Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler, author of A Saga on Home Video. I know it's been a while since we've had any new episodes. There just hasn't really been much in my hands to show you guys because, of course, there's not a bunch of new releases happening these days. We do, however, have two new releases to look at in the 3 episodes being recorded here today, along with one that finishes out a collection, which is pretty cool, and that's actually where we're going to start this time around. It's been a busy time. Not a lot of stuff to show, and what has been happening is that when I'll pick up something and it shows up, I'm like, ooh, time to show it. But then if I don't get a chance to record, the next thing's already on the way by the time I do get a chance to record. And I think, you know what, I'll wait and do them at the same time. And then that happened again. So we have 3 things to look at here in 3 different episodes being recorded around the same time. You know we're past the holidays 2023 here in early 2024 because you're going to start to see more of those different Star Wars themed shirts. As I've said before, my wife loads me up on pretty much every holiday with geekdom shirts, so I do not have to go find them myself. I particularly like this one with the Death Star style here. So anyway, what we're looking at here is going to finish out a collection of VCDs that we began taking a look at earlier, I was about to say earlier this year. We actually began looking at really in 2023, the latter half of 2023, which I have now managed to complete my collection of and confirm that there is nothing else out there sort of lingering. This is all coming from Indonesia. And may I note here, they're all actually coming from the same eBay seller who's been very helpful and whose packaging is superb. We're talking like so many layers of protection and styrofoam and everything around the products as it makes its way from Indonesia to the US that it's actually kind of a pain in the ass to get them open. But that's good because they're showing up in perfect condition when they do arrive. That seller, for what it's worth, if anybody wants to look into Indonesian VCDs on eBay, and they've not asked me to do this, I'm just sharing because it was an awesome experience. It's RAYTIAS 6236. Raytias 6236. And I'll put it in the subtitle there. If you're ever looking for Indonesian VCDs, that is the eBay seller who has a ton of them and has been very, very helpful in the past. And the shipping packaging is fantastic. So buy with confidence, so to speak. Sounds like sponsorship, but it's not. Just a really good experience. So in the past, we've taken a look at the fact that in 2000, as the final VHS release of the original trilogy was making its way into different markets, there was a VCD equivalent of it in some markets, this one being the one from Indonesia. I showed you this and pointed out how I actually prefer this one and its style of packaging to what we saw out of Malaysia, which is a much more common release. We also saw that in 2000, there was a VCD release of The Phantom Menace in Indonesia with that crappy flat packaging, kind of like Malaysia. And then in similar vein, in 2002, Attack of the Clones got a VCD release. And then completely changing up the packaging in 2005, we had Revenge of the Sith in that packaging that is much more akin to DVD packaging than what we saw with any of these other ones. But it doesn't stop there. Fast forward 9 years from 2005 to 2014, and you get Rebels Spark of Rebellion as a VCD release that we looked at very recently. And in 2016, as the debut is happening for The Force Awakens in various regions on Blu-ray and eventually Blu-ray 3D later that year and so on, there was a VCD release of that as well. And I was able to finally confirm with this seller that this was the last Star Wars VCD release. Rogue One, which I thought might have a VCD release in Indonesia, if it ever got one, did not get one in Indonesia specifically. This seller was able to confirm that there are none that I now don't have for Star Wars releases from Indonesia. Now that I've picked up the one that was sort of left in limbo, that comes from that little gap, that 9-year gap we just jumped there. There was a major Star Wars release that came out on home media for another Star Wars film in between what we saw with those releases of the Lucas films, so to speak, and those Disney-era releases with Spark of Rebellion and with The Force Awakens. And of course, I'm talking about in 2008, The Clone Wars. Yes, The Clone Wars got a VCD release in Indonesia. And it's unusual because, like the bulk of these that we've seen, it's basically Indonesian subtitled with the English audio and whatnot. The big difference here is that Whereas, generally speaking, across the world, you're seeing widescreen releases of the Clone Wars on home media, like you would have seen, say, in theaters, not altered like what we would eventually see with the TV series where there's different aspect ratios for home video and for television. This is actually a full screen VCD of the Clone Wars, which makes it a little weird kind of to watch in that 4:3 aspect ratio there. But subtitled here, this is The Clone Wars, a galaxy torn by war, and so on and so on. Or a galaxy divided, but that's actually the name of one of the releases. It just gets confusing. So we start with The Clone Wars, the film title, because this is the cartoon film. We then have our kind of standard artwork here, the ships in the background, the main characters here with the troops behind them and so on. You know, we've seen that art before in different places, posters and packaging and whatnot. We have over here a little hologram from Vision Home Entertainment. Again, that same company that did the releases for Spark of Rebellion and did the release for The Force Awakens. And then up here in the corner, we have a little nifty anti-piracy warning. It says in English, video piracy is a crime. Respect yourself, respect others, always buy original VCD. As opposed to VCDs, I figured that should be plural, but I guess technically VCD, the D could be disc or discs. Could use it as plural, sure, why not? And then down here in the corner, VCD video, and then here is the price. It says Vision Entertainment, or Vision, I think it's Interprima, whatever. It's hard to see. It's just a Vision, and then all the text under it is illegible because it's so tiny, at least to me. Original VCD, the price there, $49,000. Text, Indonesia. Okay. And then the spine, this is a slipcover. Lucasfilm, Star Wars The Clone Wars. Then, kind of hard to see because it's like matched up against his leg, but it's that Warner Home Video logo there. And then VCD video. Effectively the same thing on the other side, though it's easier to see the Warner logo because of the background there. Then on the back, in English, The Clone Wars revives old-style Star Wars fun. Associated Press. Information about it, images from it, of course. Cast, crew, Lucasfilm, StarWars.com. Soundtrack available on Sony Classical, WarnerVideo.com. Let's say Warner Brothers Pictures down there. Your legalese and all that good stuff here. UPC. And, you know, up here, running time, 98 minutes color, hi-fi stereo, PAL, because of the region, of course. And then just slip that off. Ooh. Ouch. Let's try that again without the sound that sounds like nails on a chalkboard. Okay, a little better, a little better. No interior artwork at all. It is just a jewel case here, nothing on the side either, that has the arm here, the 2 CD arm, to hold the 2 discs inside it. You got your discs. This is disc 1, similar in design in many respects to what we saw with, say, the DVDs, for example, but Clone Wars, you got the background with the ships and all, and then you have the clone troopers in the far background with a character up front, in this case, Yoda. Lucasfilm, Warner Home Video, VCD video, some legalese here with copyright for 2008. Distributed in Indonesia by PT Vision Interprima Pictures, all rights reserved. Again, Vision Home Entertainment, just that's their name in the region. It says disc 1 in white here, kind of hard to see, but it is there. And one of the other helpful things that makes it distinguishable from DVD, if you're not really looking at it from close enough to see the little VCD logo down there as opposed to DVD, is the fact that it does have that silver ring. Up here at the top, there is text as well. That's basically, you know, dates and whatnot to go with it, like production dates and whatnot, apparently. Okay, so Clone Wars here, part 1. This basically takes you through right as, you know, Obi-Wan's kind of walking in the darkened interior. Ventress is there, and they're about to confront each other, essentially. That's where the film splits, because, of course, with a full-length film, you're going to need at least 2 discs, or 3 in the case of The Force Awakens, to be able to have the whole film. Then a very similar setup here for disc 2, but with Anakin as your character featured. So honestly, not a great way to watch it, but VCD is never a great way to watch something. It was a relatively inexpensive way to watch something. It was a disc-based way of watching something as opposed to VHS, for example, and cheaper than DVD, and so on. So Not the best way to watch it, but a cool little release here. I do love being able to get complete collections of something, and VCD tends to be something that's limited enough in most markets that getting a complete collection isn't extremely difficult much of the time. So thanks, I think, exclusively to that one seller, or maybe except one perhaps from that seller, I have been able to complete a Star Wars VCD collection from Indonesia. Again, this batch here. So the prequel trilogy individually, the original trilogy as a set, The Force Awakens as the only live-action Disney-era film to get the treatment, the Clone Wars film getting the treatment in the middle, and the oddball TV special, the double-length pilot episode Spark of Rebellion, for Rebels. So if you're out there looking for it, these don't tend to pop up very often for some of these. Others are a little bit more common. But you got the name there of the person who I was able to get these from, and hopefully if you are looking for something like this, a saved search on eBay or something for Indonesian Star Wars VCD might help you, as it helped me. And I will note, by the way, this is not the first time we've seen the Clone Wars animated film actually on VCD. Remember, we did see one from Turkey a while back. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.